Now that we know about device tracking, let's build something with it. Few years ago, Google uploaded this project called Just a Line. If you haven't seen it, it's very fun. You should take a look. So we're going to basically create a clone of this, and this concept is very like the project looks very creative, but the concept behind this is simply device tracking. So we're going to use device tracking to draw line in our space. Let's get started. All right, so first thing we're going to need is a trail renderer. So let's right click on our project, go to our effects and trail. We can change the color of this trail by going in here. I'm going to change this to some sort of gradient. And then in the width we're going to change it to something like smaller one, and we are going to basically make the trail look like a pen. So what we're going to do is like the starting point or starting width of the trail should be higher, but as it goes we're going to basically make it smaller, so the graph should look like this. So we are basically going to add a point and drag this graph to the end, right? So the starting width should be 0.4, something like that, and the end width is going to be 0. In the time we're going to change it to something bigger, so 20. You can even try infinity. That's gonna basically never destroy this trail, right? So the trail is going to be there forever. So if you're new to Unity, let's see how the trail looks like. So if I basically move this trail, you can see this is how a trail looks like. And by default, if I change this time to something like 1, what will happen is like the trail is gonna fade away like that, right? So if you want it as sort of a line drawer, like similar that, we can basically change this to infinity. And the more time you give, obviously, that much time it takes to destruct or fade away the whole thing. And if you notice carefully, if when I draw the line, the end of the lines are basically shrink, right? So that's because of this. So if we move it a little bit up, you can see now the thickness of the line has increased. The starting point of the line has been more thick, and slowly it basically goes shrink. That's because again the starting width is 1 and the end width here is 0. I'm going to change the location or the position of this trail to 0, 0, 0. All right, so when the trail is set up, we can simply drag and drop this in our asset folder, and basically create a prefab. So again, if you're new to Unity, if you want to create a prefab out of an object, you simply drag and drop it to asset. And a prefab is basically some sort of a copy of an object. So it basically keeps the original uh, properties of this object. And now if you delete this, you can reuse this prefab in many different scenes in your game, right? Or you can basically copy this like blueprint in different scenes or even in runtime. So what we are going to do here is from our script, when we move our mobile device, and now as we mentioned early that our device is being tracked. So the camera of the XR origin here, it has the it should have the track pose driver that basically changes the position of this main camera based on where our device is. So we're going to use that information in our script to move this trail game object as well. So let's do that. Let's create a game object. I'm going to name it line drawing, and we're going to create a C# script. In the line drawing, we're going to need the XR origin. So that is where the main camera resides, right? So we're going to use that. It's gonna miss a namespace, so let's import that. That's xr.core utils. And then we're going to create the reference for the trail prefab that we created. So that's a game object. So we're going to say game object trail object prefab. And then we are basically in the update. When we click the mouse, we're going to spawn this trail object prefab. So let's create a reference for that. So this is the game object where we're going to store the spawned trail. So whenever we spawn this prefab, we're going to store it in here, right? And then when you click the mouse or when you tap on your screen for the first time, we're going to basically instantiate this prefab. Again, if you're new to Unity, instantiate means cloning. So we are basically saying that make a clone of this trail object prefab in a certain position. So if I hover on instantiate, there is 3 parameters. The first one is original, second one is position, and there is a rotation. So the position is where we want to spawn this game object, right? And what we want to do, again, remember, we want to move this trail wherever our camera goes. So we need to store the camera position somewhere. So let's create a variable for that as well. And then in each update, we're simply going to store that camera position. And the camera position, we can get it from the XR origin, right? So we are going to say camera position should be XR origin or AR origin dot camera dot transform dot position. So that is the position of the camera. And then we're going to add a forward value. So forward means literally the forward direction of the camera. So wherever you're facing the camera, right? So we are adding that value so that whenever you have the trail should spawn a little bit in front of the camera, not in the camera itself, so you can see it, right? I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't clear, just let me know. So yeah, and then we have a camera position, that is where we are going to spawn the trail for the first time. So this is just a spawning, but the position of this spawn trail also has to change over time. So what we're going to do is whenever we see that the mouse button is being pressed, right? So this event is just called once, but when you do this, that basically is gonna keep happening, right? So this part of this loop is going to keep going forever, and because this is an update and it says get mouse button, so whenever there is something inside the mouse, that means a touch. So if you are touching in your phone, we're going to continuously change the position of the spawned trail with the camera position, right? And again, the camera position is where our device goes. So yeah, that's it. You can save this, go back to Unity, and in here we're going to drag and drop this line drawing, the XR origin, and the trail. One thing that I want to add here as well, so let's see like where our device goes, right? So we can actually see the position in the screen, that where is our device going. That might give us some more sense of it. So let's create a UI and then text component, and I'm going to move it to the bottom. And we are going to go back to our script one last time. In here, we are going to basically again create a reference for that text object. It's missing some reference, so let's import that. So all the namespace here on the top, they are basically needed so that you can use some of the classes. So for example, in this case, TMP text is a class that we want to use. All right, so what we are going to do is in the update method, we are simply going to say that give me the position where my camera is going, right? And that we already have in here, but you could basically set position text dot text should be the camera's transform position, and this position, this is interesting, this is the camera in origin space position. So I just want to bring this up, so you know there is a different like space for camera's position as well, which is basically that value gives you the position of the camera corresponding to this XR origin, right? So wherever the camera is from the XR origins position, that is what is it basically shows you. So drag and drop this text component in our position text as well. Now let's build this and see how it looks in our app. All right, so as we open the app, you can see there is a few values in the middle of the screen. So if I move my device left, you're going to see that the X value is changing, right? If I move my device up or down, you can see that the Y value is changing. And similarly, if I go a little bit forward or backward, you can see that the Z value is changing, right? Now let's try to draw something. So according to our logic, if we tap on our screen, that is when the drawing should start. And you have to keep tapping on the screen, and if we move our device, we can draw. But I think the line is a little bit thick, so we can change that easily by going back to our project. In our prefab, the trail start with, we can change it to something like 0.1. Save it, build it again, and see how it looks like. All right, so as the app opens, if I move my device, we can now write stuff. So it's working pretty well. I'm trying to write hello. You're going to see like the edges of these lines are not that smooth. That is big again because of the settings that we did in the trail renderer. We can tweak those settings to make those edge a little bit more smooth. The starting of for example, the H is a little bit thin right now. That is because of the thickness changes, right? So we can change that as well. The flickers is happening as well because of like not enough feature in this very tiny small room. But if you have a very like broader space with some more feature point, it's gonna work better. So yeah, I'll see you in the next part where we're going to talk about trackables.